Today, we're diving into the science of why so many of us get that powerful urge for a fresh start. And we're going to see how our brains aren't just open to making big life changes, they're actually literally built for them.
You know that feeling, right? That little voice that says, what if I just wipe the slate clean? Whether it's about your job, where you live, or your daily habits, that urge to hit the reset button is a really powerful and really human impulse.
And right now, it seems like that feeling is everywhere. A recent Gallup poll found that employee engagement has just hit an 11-year low. They're even calling it the Great Detachment. It seems like a whole lot of us are feeling disconnected from the very things that used to give us purpose.
So what are people doing about it? Well, this feeling is fueling a huge trend. People are downshifting, simplifying their lives, or even walking away from jobs they were once really passionate about. But there's always this massive hurdle, isn't there? The fear of what everyone else will think. And that fear, well, it can keep you feeling stuck for a long, long time.
So let's really dig into this. What is this modern urge for a reset all about? What's actually going on inside our heads when we feel that pull to make a huge change?
The official term for this trend is downshifting, and it's not just about making less money. No, it's about a much deeper shift in what you value. It's about consciously stepping out of the rat race and trading that constant chase for more. For a life that's built around personal fulfillment, real connection, and a much healthier balance.
And get this, here's where our fears totally disconnect from reality. Some fascinating research from Harvard Business School looked into this. When we think about quitting a job we love, we imagine everyone's going to judge us. We think they'll question our skills, our character, everything. But the reality? People judge us way less harshly than we think. That intense fear is mostly just a story we're telling ourselves.
Okay, so we've established the feeling is real, the trend is happening, and our fear of being judged is, frankly, overblown. But what's the trigger? What's that spark that finally gives us the push we need to actually take the leap and hit reset?
Well, that brings us to this really cool psychological idea called the fresh start effect, and it explains everything about the timing of our motivation.
So the fresh start effect is all about timing. There are certain moments in time, researchers call them temporal landmarks, that work like chapter breaks in our minds. They give us this amazing opportunity to mentally box up all our past mistakes, label that box the old me, and look to the future with a totally clean slate. It makes us feel way more capable of actually reaching our goals.
And listen, this isn't just some feel-good pop psychology. It's backed by some serious behavioral science. This key research, which was published in Management Science, actually proved that these temporal landmarks consistently fire up our motivation to chase after what we want.
And you can see this effect play out in the real world so clearly. Just look at Google searches for the word diet. They spike like clockwork. When? At the beginning of every week, the beginning of every month, and of course, a massive spike at the beginning of a new year. Those are all temporal landmarks, and they trigger this huge collective desire for a fresh start.
So what else counts as a temporal landmark? Well, you've got the big ones we all share, like New Year's Day or the start of a new week. But they can also be super personal, like your birthday. Or they can be tied to big life events, like starting a new job or a new semester. Each one is a little opportunity our brain gets to say, all right, here we go, new beginning.
But this whole thing isn't just a clever psychological trick we play on ourselves. No, this drive for a fresh start is also hardwired into the biology of our incredible, ever-changing brains.
For the longest time, science had it all wrong. The old belief was that your brain was basically set in stone after childhood, that you were pretty much stuck with the brain you had. Well, we now know that is completely, totally false. The modern science is crystal clear. Our brains are constantly changing, adapting, and rewiring themselves for our entire lives.
And that brings us to this absolutely crucial concept: neuroplasticity. It's just a fancy word for the brain's amazing lifelong ability to reorganize itself. Every single time you have a new experience or learn a new skill, you are physically changing your brain by building new pathways between your neurons.
One of the most famous examples of this involves London taxi drivers. It's amazing. See, to get their license, they have to memorize a ridiculously complex map of thousands of streets, called the Knowledge. And when scientists scanned their brains, they found that this intense learning had physically changed them. The part of their hippocampus responsible for memory had actually grown bigger. And the longer they'd been a cabbie, the more their brain had changed.
So here's basically how it works. You learn something new, and a specific pathway in your brain lights up. The more you practice it, the more you repeat it, the stronger and more efficient that connection gets. Eventually, your brain has physically remodeled itself to make that new skill feel easy, almost automatic.
Learning isn't just in your mind, it is a physical act of construction happening inside your head.
Okay, so let's put these two big ideas together. If we know that we're psychologically primed for a fresh start at certain moments, and we know our brains are physically built to change and adapt, then what does that really mean for this loaded idea of quitting?
This is really the heart of it all. The fresh start effect gives us the psychological green light to change, and neuroplasticity gives us the biological engine to actually do it. So, if that's true, maybe quitting isn't an ending. Maybe it's not a failure. Maybe it's just the start of your next great experiment. It's you testing a new hypothesis about what a fulfilling life could look like.
I love this quote from Elizabeth Rowe. She was a world-class musician who left her dream job in an orchestra to start something new, and she put it perfectly. She said, "It's like a trapeze. You're swinging on one bar, holding on tight. But if you want to catch the next bar and move forward, you have to do something terrifying. You absolutely have to let go."
So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. We're all taught to see quitting as a sign of failure, as an ending. But what if we've had it backwards this whole time? What if quitting is actually the necessary and maybe even the most brilliant first step in your brain's next great experiment?